Hello there. My reading has reached a new depth of depravity. I have finally read the classic novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and it was nothing like I expected. I was surprised when the book started on a ship in the Arctic. Totally not what I expected. Everybody knows the picture of the man with the little uh, bumps on his neck and crosses and scars all over his face. But that's really not what Frankenstein was about. Frankenstein was a college student, Victor Frankenstein, and he took up an interest in natural philosophy, and that led him to an interest in robbing graves, and he had an interest in bringing life to dead parts of bodies, and it's really disgusting, I know, but I wanted to read it because it was a classic, and I have read it now, and I'm glad I will never read it again. But I still gave it 5 stars on Goodreads just because it is good literature. It was well written. Victor Frankenstein, the college student, wanted to give life to a collection of dead body parts, which he successfully did. And obviously he was trying to play God because only God is supposed to give life. And it didn't work out well for Eve. Didn't work out well for Eve in the Garden of Eden when she wanted to be like God and have the knowledge of both good and evil. It turned out to be a really bad idea for her, and also giving life and trying to play God was a bad idea for Victor Frankenstein, because after he gave this monster man life, it was like all hell broke loose. And I don't want to give you a lot of spoilers, but it was a very interesting novel, and I think Victor Frankenstein learned his lesson. It all gave me an interest in knowing who is Mary Shelley, the one who wrote this depraved novel. And so I printed out the entire Wikipedia article about Mary Shelley, and I'm going to go inside and read it. Like, it's going to be warm in my shed this afternoon, so I will probably get back to you this evening to tell you what I learned about Mary Shelley. Hours later, it is evening now, and I have read most of that information about Mary Shelley. I didn't read some of the parts that were about her other literary works because I know I'm not going to read them. So Mary Shelley was born in 1797. 11 days later, her mother died of childbed fever, and she was raised by her father in a fairly stable situation. They lived like wealthy people, but they weren't wealthy. He was in deep debt. There was just a lot of financial deprivation. In 1814, she was about 16 years old, and she started an affair with Percy Bysshe Shelley, the poet, and he was 21 at the time. They used to meet in the graveyard to see each other. To me, says a lot about what kind of person would write this book. So they eloped but didn't marry, and went to Europe with one of her stepsisters and stayed there for a few months, and then they ran out of money and had to go back to England. And by this time, her father decided not to have anything to do with her again. Percy Shelley, that she fell in love with, he was already married to somebody else, and eventually his wife committed suicide, and then Mary and Percy married. So I don't think that was a very good start to the marriage, but I don't want to be too condemning. It's not my role in life. I just, she made a lot of mistakes early on. They were really into radical political ideology. They did a lot of traveling, and in 1816, she must have been about 18 at the time, they went to Geneva in Switzerland, again with her stepsister, and they planned to spend the summer with the poet Lord Byron, who was, he had had a recent affair with the stepsister, and the stepsister was pregnant with his child. And so he rented a villa, and at some point during this event in Geneva, they decided they were all going to write ghost stories, and Mary had a hard time deciding what her ghost story was going to be. And then she had like a waking dream. She said, "I saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling behind the thing he had put together. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then on the working of some powerful engine show signs of life and stir with an uneasy half-vital motion. Frightful must it be, for supremely frightful would be the effect of any human endeavor to mock the stupendous mechanism of the creator of the world." And so, that's kind of what I got out of it, was that it was rebellion against the creator of the world, and came from her imagination. She wrote that novel and published it in 1818. Wow, she must have been 21 years old when it was published. So that, to me, tells a lot about the novel Frankenstein. She was not living a godly life. She had experienced death early on by losing her mother. She had already lost one of her children, and so Frankenstein, she was only 21 years old when it was published. She was actually a very young writer. It was well written, I have to give it that, but she did not have a very happy life. After that, she, like I said, married Percy Shelley after his wife committed suicide, and they went to Italy, where their second and third children died. So she had lost 3 children, and then while they were there, Percy Shelley was out boating with a friend, and they drowned. So she was with him like 8 years. After he died, she tried to edit a lot of his poetry. She did a lot of other writing. I have a list here. History of the 6 Weeks Tour, which would be the time that they eloped and went to Europe when she was like 16 years old. And then Frankenstein was her second, and then she wrote Matilda, Valperga, posthumous poems of Percy by Shelley, The Last Man, The Fortunes of Perkin Warbeck, Lodore Faulkner, The Poetical Works of Percy by Shelley, Contributions to Lives of the Most Eminent Literary and Scientific Men, Rambles in Germany and Italy. And I don't know, after reading about her life, I really don't have any interest in reading anything else that she wrote, so I know that I won't. But there's the scoop. She was extremely young when she wrote Frankenstein. She had the help of her husband, Percy by Shelley, the poet, and they tried to make a life for themselves, but it wasn't based on godly principles, and it ended up being a disaster. So that is all I have to say about the novel Frankenstein and the lady who created it. And see you in another video.